We are all attempting to ascertain as to the reason why we age and, of course, experience similar creature challenges. Well, hopefully in today's video, I can provide a boatload of opportunities for you to examine as you continue to advance in your lifetime. In the Urantia Book, Jesus addressed his apostles at Tyre in 156:5.18, stating,
As you grow older in years and more experienced in the affairs of the kingdom, are you becoming more tactful in dealing with troublesome mortals and more tolerant in living with stubborn associates? Tact is the fulcrum of social leverage, and tolerance is the earmark of a great soul. If you possess these rare and charming gifts, as the days pass, you will become more alert and expert in your worthy efforts to avoid all unnecessary social misunderstandings. Such wise souls are able to avoid much of the trouble, which is certain to be the portion of all who suffer from lack of emotional adjustment. Those who refuse to grow up and those who refuse to grow old gracefully.
Consequently, we learn from this passage that aging likely has to do with emotional adjustment, flexibility, and of course, wisdom. Fun fact, did you know that our once planetary princess corporeal staff once consisted of ascending mortals that partook in the tree of life to sustain their lives on our planet? Due to their current universe service and potential for immortality, they were temporarily relieved of their thought adjusters until their assignment was over, found in 53.6. Aging is not merely the gradual decline of physical vitality, but it is the sacred process embedded within the divine architecture of time, personality, and soul evolution. Aging is portrayed as a purposeful unfolding of the human experience, designed to foster wisdom, deepen spiritual insight, and prepare the soul for eternal progression. I'm curious what would happen to these corporeal staff members if they were given their thought adjusters. I would imagine the adjusters' experiences would regress to a lower memory form. Far from being a curse or a biological accident, aging is a cosmic invitation to participate in the divine ascent from mortal imperfection to paradise perfection. The Urantia Book emphasizes that time is a gift that not all entities in the universe conceptualize like we do. This proverbial state in which we are given is an essential condition for experiential growth that gives us a sense of urgency along with challenges to overcome. Aging, therefore, is a mechanism through which time operates on the human personality. Time allows for experience accumulation, which is a foundation of wisdom. Aging provides contrast, since youthful vigor versus mature reflection enables the soul to discern deeper meanings along with vast experiences. The passage of time often fosters spiritual hunger, as material pursuits often lose their luster as eternal values begin gaining prominence. As we start to ascend towards our golden years, they are golden simply due to the significant spiritual growth we tend to receive towards the end of our material journey. Now, I know what you're thinking, and you're right in saying that there are certainly plenty of people out there who do not exhibit the divine spiritual qualities of old age. However, those are the people that hold on to their animalistic vestiges and not embracing divine spiritual truth that aging uncovers. In Jesus' words, they are not aging gracefully. As stated in 2.5,
the whole scheme of living existences on the worlds of space is centered in the divine purpose of elevating all will creatures to the high destiny of the experience of sharing the Father's paradise perfection.
Aging and fallibility are the experiential crucible in which all elevation begins. While the body ages and the mind evolves, the Urantia Book teaches that personality is changeless, a unique, God-bestowed reality that persists through all phases of existence. This distinction is crucial. Personality remains stable, providing continuity across changing mental and physical states we go through as we become older. Aging, after all, refines the personality's expression, allowing it to manifest more fully through accumulated experience. The soul, co-created by personality and nurtured by the indwelling thought adjuster, grows in response to life's challenges, especially through those we encounter along the way. Thus, aging is not a threat to identity, but a canvas upon which personality paints its most profound strokes. Ideally, if we were to follow the divine plan of ascension, your adjuster's leading and your personal choice slowly become indistinguishable as you increasingly decide to follow our Lord's divine will as one divinely propelled being. There are exceptions to this plan of ascension, however, for spirit and son fused individuals, and for those in which are glorified through the Trinity embrace, such as mighty messengers. Central to the Urantia Book's cosmology is the concept of the thought adjuster, a fragment of God that indwells in the human mind. Aging enhances divine partnership. With age comes increased receptivity to the adjuster's guidance, as material distractions wane and reflection deepens. A good example of the differentiation between a young and seasoned being can be found in 142 2.4, where Jesus stated,
"When your children are very young and immature, and when you must chastise them, they may reflect that their father is angry and filled with resentful wrath. Their immaturity cannot penetrate beyond the punishment to discern the father's far-seeing and corrective action. But when these same children become grown-up, men and women, would it not be folly for them to cling to these earlier and misconceived notions regarding their father? As men and women, they should now discern their father's love in all these early disciplines. And should not mankind, as the centuries pass, come to better understand the true nature and loving character of the Father in heaven? What profit have you from successive generations of spiritual illumination if you persist in doing God as Moses and the prophets saw him?"
So in other words, discernible truth is vastly different between a grandparent and a grandchild. As one of many examples, children often lack abstract thinking or the ability to simplify complex ideas or systems, while grandparents have a history of witnessing these principles come to fruition and that experience in which to draw upon. For those unfortunate few, if an adjuster fails its mission to assist its host towards ascension or fusion, this fractal of God becomes more capable for their next assignment, which are known as experienced thought adjusters, found in 109 4.5. In fact, it is suggested that the sleeping subject that assisted in writing the Urantia papers had such an experienced thought adjuster with enhanced communal capabilities that were utilized by the midwayers. When people speculate as to whether the sleeping subject was a prophet or chosen by God, the default answer that I typically read is that the only thing special about this hard-boiled businessman was the fractal of God inside of them that had advanced abilities due to their previous human exposure. The adjuster uses life experiences, especially those of suffering, loss, and contemplation, to spiritualize the mind. Suffering, after all, is the best catalyst towards drawing a person towards spiritual ideals, transmuting their once immature character, and developing souls of renown. Especially for those of which who endured a rebellion planet, such as our own. Older individuals often experience adjuster fusion readiness, or a state of spiritual maturity that prepares the soul for the eternal union with this divine fragment. In this light, aging is not decay. It is simply divine preparation. As indicated in other religions, the death of a material body often represents the birth of the spirit. Or in other words, that any creature vestiges, including our human body that we cling on to, prevents our very divinity from escaping its own mortal shell. The soul, according to the Urantia Book, is not created at birth, but emerges through moral decisions, spiritual insights, and experiences in this life. Aging, of course, plays a pivotal role in this emergence. Each decade of life offers new opportunities for soul growth, from childhood innocence to youthful ambition, adult responsibility, and eventually elder wisdom. Later life is especially fertile, as individuals reflect on their legacy, seek reconciliation, and prioritize eternal values, no longer elevating ideals such as vanity nor dichotomous pride. The soul becomes more real, more substantial, as aging strips away illusions and reveals enduring truths. This process is not automatic and requires conscious cooperation. After all, God and all of their agents will only assist you if you're open to their influence. But for those of you that engage divine will, aging becomes a sacred rite of passage, drinking from the same proverbial cup as Christ Michael once did. The Urantia Book champions the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. And aging contributes uniquely to this ideal. Elders often become peacemakers, having seen the futility of conflict, the value of compassion, and the benefits of patience. As one becomes older, intergenerational relationships flourish, as geriatrics mentor the young and transmute cultural and spiritual wisdom along the family tree. Societies that honor aging tend to be more stable, humane, and spiritually attuned, such as Native American culture. In this sense, aging is not just personal, it is communal. It enriches the social fabric and elevates collective consciousness. It is a sad reality as to how many convalescent homes we have in the United States, since such a wealth of knowledge and experience can be used to assist our overt childcare problem that's been developing over the past few decades. This is in stark contrast to many European and Asian cultures that often have multiple generations in a single home, operating symbiotically without the need of a babysitter or a nurse's aide. One of the Urantia Book's most profound teachings is the concept of the Urantia life, which is the intermediate state between mortal existence and pure spirit. Aging prepares the soul for this transition. Death, after all, is not the end, but a doorway to continued growth on higher planes. The Urantia career begins with resurrection, where the soul awakens in a new body suited for spiritual progress. Aging helps detach the soul from material anchors, making the transition smoother and more harmonious. Thus, the final years of life are not a descent into oblivion, but an ascent toward new beginnings. The Urantia Book devotes its final section to the life and teachings of Jesus, who exemplifies the spiritual potential of aging. Jesus met death gracefully, balancing physical vigor with increasing spiritual depth. The forsaken comment Jesus made on the cross was simply Christ Michael reciting the 22nd Psalm found in 187, 5.2, and Jesus at no time believed that his Father had left his side. I would like to speculate for a moment as to why Jesus made that reference to Psalm 22 in the first place. I'd bet that it was Jesus' last attempt towards understanding the human condition one last time. I would imagine that, especially for people that don't believe in God, that must be a really lonely experience. In Jesus, we see aging not as a limitation, but as a divine tool for revelation and ministry. The Urantia Book does not ignore the difficulties of aging, which include illness, loss, and often, like I said before, loneliness, but reframes them as opportunities, suffering that can purify our soul, stripping away ego, washing away materialism, and fostering humility. Loss can also deepen empathy, making us more attuned to the needs of others. Loneliness can lead to divine intimacy, as external distractions fade and inner communion grows with your spiritual resources. These challenges are not punishments, but are invitations to transcendence and to deepen the course of your faith. As a brief example, often therapists are trained in developmental disability courses to covertly understand that people who are born with such disabilities often suffer less than people who acquire them. Before you can think of me as being heartless, can you guess why? People that acquire disabling conditions, such as getting into a car accident, have a point of reference or perspective of what that loss truly represents, having such function being taken away from them. People that are born with disabling conditions, such as autism, often only learn about their limitations through interactions with others and lack the grief of loss since they've never had such an ability or function previously to begin with. In other words, we never truly understand the significance or value of anything, of course, until we lose it. Aging is a slow form of material loss and spiritual gain. This cosmic perspective transforms aging from a biological inevitability into a spiritual privilege. In the Urantia Book, aging is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be embraced. It is the slow unfolding of divine potential, the ripening of a soul, and the preparation for eternal service. Thank you again for watching today's video, your continued support, and I'll see you on the next one.